So if you've been following this channel for a while, then you've probably noticed that I've been using these Earthworks mics in every video I've done for a long time now. I originally reviewed these back in 2018, so it's been about 6 years now that I've been using these mics, and I have to say they've been awesome to work with. But Earthworks is taking things to the next level with a complete redesign of this drum miking kit, which they're calling the DK7 Gen 2. And I've been testing them out here for the past couple weeks, so let's take a look at these new mics and see what they're all about. When you get the DK7, it's going to come in this new hard shell case, which is very hardcore. You can see the Earthworks logo there. And this is an SKB hard shell case. It's got some heavy duty clasps right here, and you got a couple spots here for some actual locks if you need to lock this thing down. So if you're planning on, taking this on the road or on tour, this is definitely a pretty hardcore case that will keep them nice and protected. And if we open it up here, you can see we got some paperwork on top, just kind of your basic things there. And they also give you a little quick start guide. And this is just telling you that all the microphones need phantom power, how to insert the DM20s into the rim mounts, and some tips for placing the kick drum mic. So just a little quick start guide there. And one thing you may notice that's pretty interesting is that all the microphones have their own individual bag. And I think the reason for that is so you can maybe take one of these mics or a couple of them with you without having to take the full case. So if you just wanted to take maybe the two overheads and the kick, you could just grab these, throw them in a bag, take them with you, and they'll at least have a little bit of protection instead of just having the raw mic by itself. So I think it's kind of interesting that every mic has its own bag. And here on the right, you have the new DM6 kick drum mic. And this thing is a beast. This is probably the biggest change from the first generation because this is a completely newly designed kick drum mic from scratch. And you can see it's got the same stainless steel design as the other microphones. And one thing that's kind of interesting is you can unscrew the windscreen, and that's what the actual barrel looks like there. And this is actually a little two-piece foam windscreen. So that's kind of interesting. So it just goes in there like that. And then you just screw it back on there. And this also comes with a Triad Orbit ball head, which is a really great addition because if you know anything about Triad Orbit, they make really hardcore stuff that is very expensive. So the fact that they include this with the mic is a really great addition. So to compare it to the first gen, this is the SR20LS, which is the kick drum mic that came with the first gen. But this one is just a completely different beast that blows this one out of the water in terms of getting like a modern, punchy kick drum sound. So we'll go over this in more detail, but this is the new DM6. And just to show you these bags, you can see the Earthworks logo right there. And inside here, it's like a very bright yellow, kind of interesting. So that's the DM6. And right here, you have the new rim mounts for the DM20s. And this is also a completely new design. And these are so much better than the first gen. I love this new design. So just to show you in comparison to the first gen, you can see it's much smaller, much more compact, but way easier to work with. So I'll show you how those work in a bit, but you get 4 of these rim mounts, and then underneath here you have 6 of these little foam windscreens in case you need those. And here to the left, you have the new SR25s, which are the overhead microphones. I mean, look at how small and compact these are now. I was amazed when I first saw these at how tiny they are. So just to show you in comparison to the first gen, this is the old SR25, and you can see it's like almost half the height, and it's got a new design here on the barrel. That's what they look like from the top. So very cool, very sleek, minimal new design on the SR25s. You almost don't even know they're above the kit. They're so tiny now. But you get two of those right there. And these last four are the new DM20s, which are for the snare and the toms. And this is also a completely new design, much more compact, much more minimal. So just to show you in comparison to the first gen, I mean, this one almost looks comically large in comparison to this one now. So I definitely love this new design. It's just easier to mount, easier to get in place. And if you can see, it's got a new design here on the head. New barrel shape. Pretty much the same kind of gooseneck, you know, very tough, very rigid, but just a much more sleek body in comparison to the first one. And just to show you how it mounts into the rim here. They're a little bit challenging to get into the rim mount, but the way that I've kind of done it is I just get the bottom going in there, and then you just have to put some force into it, and it snaps right in place. And these things, once you get them in there, they don't move very easily, which is a good thing, but you can kind of slide them with some force if you need to. But this is what the new DM20s look like, fully mounted. But yeah, that's everything you get inside here. So you get the DM6, 4 rim mounts, 6 windscreens, 2 SR25s, for the DM20s, all inside this new hardshell SKB case. One thing that Earthworks has highlighted about these new mics is they've redesigned the internal electronics to require less phantom power than before, and they've also built in some additional protection against accidentally hot swapping the mic, meaning plugging it in or unplugging it with the phantom power engaged, which ideally you would never do, but that can happen sometimes. Now, that's not something I want to test out, so I'm just going to take their word for it. But it's nice to know that they're trying to build these to be a little bit more robust and foolproof. But one thing I did notice right away when I first plugged these in and fired them up is they do give you a little more headroom to apply gain in your preamp than before. With the first gen, especially with the DM20s, I would basically plug them in, turn on phantom power, and the signal level would be about as hot as I would want it to go, even with no gain applied. But with these new ones, I've noticed I get about 5 or 6 dB more leeway there to kind of dial up the gain if I want to. So it's nice to have a little more flexibility to dial in the gain to what I want it to be. Now with these new SR25s, they're still going to give you the same clear, neutral sound that they're known for, but they've tightened up the polar pattern on them a little bit more, which is going to give you a more focused sound on the drums with better isolation from the surroundings, which is good if you're in a room that doesn't sound that great and you don't want to pick that up, or maybe you're surrounded by a bunch of loud instruments. These are going to just reject that surrounding sound a little bit better and just focus on the drums more, which is a good thing. And when you get a stereo pair like this, they're going to be matched within 2 dB of each other, which is going to give you a really balanced and accurate stereo image. And they also have an SPL rating of 145 dB, which means they're not going to distort or overload, even if you play pretty loud. So let me give you a quick demo of what these new SR25s sound like, completely raw, just mounted above as a standard space pair. Now with these new DM20s, my favorite thing is this new rim mount, because this is what I interact with the most on a daily basis, because I'm constantly tuning my drums and pulling these mics on and off of the rim. And this new design is just so much easier to work with. Now, the first gen was fine, it got the job done, but you can see it connects to the top and the bottom of the rim, and the tension knob is facing downward on the outside. So it's kind of just awkward to get to. You can't really see it. You're just kind of like using feel to dial it in. And even once you got it dialed in, it still has like a little bit of play in it. But with these new ones, you just attach it to the top of the rim, and the tension knob is right here on top. So you can dial it in easily right from the drumming position. And once you get it locked in, it feels solid as a rock, like it doesn't move at all. Whereas this one still has a little bit of play in it. So it's just much more efficient, much easier to get on and off of the drum. So 10 for 10 on this new design. Well done, Earthworks. And in terms of the sound, these give you a nice open neutral sound that you can shape however you want in the mix. And they've really designed these to try to minimize leakage as much as they can, which is always an issue with close mics on drums. So according to their specs, these give you 25 dB of rejection at 140 degrees with 16 dB of rejection across the back 180 with an even attenuation of all frequencies. So they're really designed to just pick up whatever you point them at. So let me give you a quick demo of what these new DM20s sound like, completely raw. All right, now the DM6. This is by far the biggest change from the first gen because this is a completely new kick drum mic. One of the only weak points from the first gen was the kick mic, which is why I always kept the Audix D6 around, because it just had a more modern and punchy kind of sound. But with this new DM6, I can finally replace that Audix mic and have a full Earthworks setup. And this mic is built like a tank. You can see it's solid machined stainless steel. It's heavy. It's got a nice weight to it. And it's pretty sexy, which is always important, right? And it also comes with this triad orbit ball head, which may seem like a small thing, but this triad orbit stuff is very well made and it's very expensive. So the fact that they give you this with the microphone, I think is just awesome. And it just makes the mic extremely easy to position. You can put this thing anywhere you want to. And when you lock it down, it's locked in. It doesn't move at all. So in terms of just usability and practicality, 10 for 10 with the triad orbit ball head on here. Now in terms of the sound, it's exactly what you think an Earthworks kick mic should sound like, which is open, clear, and neutral, but it's not flat. If you look at the frequency response, you can see it's got a pretty dramatic looking curve with some scooped mids and some boosts in the highs and lows. But in reality, it doesn't sound that dramatic. It's really just getting you right in the ballpark of a modern, punchy kick sound, but it gives you some room to kind of shape it however you want in the mix. And it handles EQ really well. So whenever you go to kind of boost up the lows in that 40 to 50 hertz range, or pull out the attack in the 4 to 8K range, it's all right there, and you don't have to work very hard to pull it out. So let me go ahead and give you a quick little demo of what this new DM6 sounds like completely raw. So overall, I think this is a great redesign of the DK7 kit. It looks like they've tried to address all the weak points from the first generation with the new electronics inside, the smaller form factors, the new rim mounts, the new kick mic, the new case. It's pretty hard to come up with any big flaws to complain about. This new kit is pretty dialed in. So if you want to learn more about these, I'll have my Sweetwater affiliate links below, so definitely check those out. But now I'm going to end with just a quick little demo of what these sound like fully mixed, so you can get an idea of the potential for what these mics can sound like.